Hi everyone, welcome to part 3 of our week 3 lecture on data journalism. You will find the training video here under watch this video third or number 3. We're going to talk about census reporting in that handout, so be sure to click on that. And then we're going to talk about the Analyzing Bridge Inspections database. That's a pretty involved exercise, and that assignment will be due Monday, January 31st at noon. So be sure to click on that and open that. Just as a reminder, if you haven't done it yet by the 28th, make sure that you've done the Digging for Data assignment that we covered in videos 1 and 2. So hit pause, go ahead and download these 2 items under part 3, and we'll get started here in just a minute. Welcome back. The 2020 census, the data was released, or they started to release the data, I should say, in August, late August of 2021. We had a few surprises in it. Chicago actually gained 50,000 people, which was a bit of a surprise. We are no longer in threat of becoming the 4th largest city in the U.S. to falling behind Houston. So that's good. And also, the city's diversity has changed a little bit. Latinos have surpassed African Americans in number in the city of Chicago as well. So that was a pretty significant shift that we saw. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the census works, how it's broken down. We've looked at censusreporter.org in our first training video for this week. The U.S. Census data.census.gov is right here if you ever need to open it up and look through it. There's also this great new tool out there called Big Local News, their census co-op. This is based out of Stanford University, and their tool calculates 2010 and 2020 data and figures the percentage change between the two, race, gender, income, all kinds of stuff. It also has a very large, or growing, I should say, repository of data. You can log into this by setting up a Gmail account login. And when you get there, you can click on Open Projects. And these are projects that people have worked on and posted here. All kinds of, COVID data. You'll see Johns Hopkins in here quite a bit. You can filter them out by these keywords here. There's health and schools and, all kinds of different topics and subtopics. So you can click through those and it'll show different projects. And you can open them up and look at them in what's called the viewer here. And there's all the data sets with it. Who uses it? There's a Duncan Beyer. Here's the admin of it. And if there are any groups involved with this would be groups of other journalists that are working on. This was just a single project that was built by Reveal back in 2018. So, if you build something, maybe you can have it listed here. We've got data sets that we work with all the time. We can share them here and share our projects here. So, all kinds of interesting things. You're starting to even see some census materials show up there. Data archive is quite interesting. You can go in here. U.S. police traffic stops data by city and state. It's a couple years old, but still relatively current. Costs of U.S. wildfires. You can go in and open this up, and it's got all of the data sets that you can just download here. This is a really, really good resource. In little abstract information about the data set, how they built it, that type of thing. It reminds me a little bit of the Google Dataset search tool, which is really cool. You can go in and find these. So down this left-hand side, there's all kinds of different tools and things for developers in here, application programming interfaces and things like that, and different little plug-ins and things like that you can take and use. You can store your projects in here as well. You can upload them here and put them under My Projects, and then slowly start to move them into some of these other areas. But Big Local News has just a dynamite census resource here that's worth looking into. So just an FYI on that. More on the census. The census comes out in a big dump in mid-August. It came out August 13th of this year. But slowly they've been releasing more detailed information. They kind of dig down to more specific, age, gender, race, income, things like that. And we're still seeing some of it released here in early 2022. Things like same-sex marriage data. It's the first time we've had that in a census. So, home ownership by same-sex marriage couples, things like that, which is introducing, new data opportunities, to track those and see what kind of numbers we're seeing and what patterns we're seeing with it. What does the census calculate? It calculates data at the national level and state level. Metropolitan area. The metropolitan area would be like Chicago and the suburban counties around it. Cities, which are also called places on the census. It's kind of weird because they use some different language in the census than we're typically using. Counties are in here as well. Cook County data, DuPage County, Lake County, and so on. Then you get down to what's called a census tract. And if you watched carefully on that video I showed you earlier, you may have seen some census tract data when we were looking at boundaries of Chicago. You can download that off the City of Chicago data portal. So census tracts, and here's an example of a tract over here. It's got a series of numbers within it, which are called blocks. Okay, that is a block, not like a city block, but a block of locations within that census tract. And then you have individual blocks, a block group, and then a block. Okay, so that's how it's broken down. It's also broken down by school districts, congressional districts. There's many different subsets and ways to break down a census and then map those numbers. What are census numbers used for? Why do we care about census numbers? Why do they have big campaigns of encouraging people to try and answer the questions on the census? It's used for redistributing political power. Chicago is currently redoing its congressional districts, its aldermanic wards, and that can affect who's elected in an election. There's a lot of gerrymandering here in Chicago where they rethink some certain districts, especially the congressional districts, to get certain people elected on a consistent basis. That's why we see aldermen sometimes too that are elected and stay in power for decades. That's not necessarily a good thing. Steer spending of budgets of federal funds, $1.5 trillion. How much money is Chicago going to get in an emergency situation, or school funding and things like that? The state of Illinois, the census data. That's why they want to count as many people as they can, because the more people you have, the more you can justify asking for more money for things. Guiding civil rights, law enforcement. It'll influence local decisions on schools and emergency planning. We saw that, wow, with COVID-19, just the lack of resources that were there and how ill prepared they were. Maybe if we had a little better census numbers in the past, maybe we would have had more ventilators or more resources. It's one of those things that matters there. Basis for research on health and other topics. So many things that the census influences, but typically it'll influence a budget, which is a set of political decisions. Story ideas that can come out of the census. We saw a few of these in the fall. Chicago's black population is at its lowest point in more than 60 years. Latinos are now the second largest racial or ethnic group in Chicago. It grew by 5%. The Asian community is the fastest growing in the city at 31%. Those are some interesting stories. I've got a little link here. It's an optional listen for you. WBEZ, the NPR affiliate here in Chicago, does some outstanding work. They had a little audio story report on the census when the initial numbers dropped in August. So you can go back and listen to that. Some other story ideas, are they gerrymandering around prisons and prison populations? Who makes this decision? How many are incarcerated in the state and county? How much has it increased and decreased, and so on? Gentrification, how's it affecting neighborhoods like Pilsen and Uptown, Wicker Park? A lot of gentrification there. And as I mentioned earlier, the same-sex couples and marriage data as well. So. I've got some other examples down here of how people have, visualized the census and things like that. But, this is just a quick overview on what the census is and how it works and what it impacts. Why do we care about these numbers? Why does the government, run these big ad campaigns? Answer to the census. You probably saw those in 2020. And the census was hindered quite a bit by the pandemic, which hit in March of 2020. Right as they were getting a lot of the census takers out there. So very, very big issue. Okay. Now open up this one. This is the analyzing data set, the failing bridges. Okay. We're going to scrape a data set and then we're going to analyze it. And I'm going to walk you through how to do this. We've got written steps as well on here, but I'm going to walk you through how to do it. First thing you want to do when opening this up, before you do anything else, is go to the File menu and make a copy of this. Okay, you want to make a copy of it and save it into your own folder. So I'll put Riley in here. Don't save it in our class folder because then everybody can see your answers. So I'll type in Riley analyzing a data set. I'll hit the week 3 folder and I'm going to go save this in another folder. It will be innocuous and you can't see it. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to save it somewhere else. You'd want to select your personal folder, wherever you keep your homework on Google Drive, and have your name in the title. And save it. And put your name on it. Put your name on the copy, not the original. Okay, and feel free to pause this exercise as we're going through. Pause the video as we're going through this exercise because it is a lot to take in. Okay, so I'll usually give you a little step-by-step with it. Back in 2018, a bridge collapsed in Genoa, Italy, causing several deaths. MSNBC analyzed a data set of bridge repair and learned that 1 in 4 bridges in the U.S. are in need of repair. It was came from an organization called ARTBA, the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. ARTBA, hell of an acronym. So what I want you to do is hit the pause button and play this MSNBC video right here. So I'm not playing video and video. Paying particular close attention to how this broadcaster presented the data as well. He used these little slides to kind of lay out some of the highlights of the study. And I've got a link to the whole study here that you can look at if you want to. But just play through this video and get a good feel for that. Then we're going to go through and we're going to figure a little average, a quick calculation percentage, okay, based off their study. Then we're going to move on and do another study. So go ahead and hit pause and watch the other video. All right, welcome back. Right by now, you've watched this MSNBC video and you saw how the broadcaster laid out the data and the analysis that they did of this bridge inspection studies report and the conditions of U.S. bridges. Not good. 1 in 4 are in need of repair. What depends though is how much repair there is. Is there one bolt missing, or is there structure about ready to collapse? So what I wanted you to do is, in this ARTBA study, and he talked about this, 54,259 of the nation's 612,000 bridges are rated, quote, structurally deficient. Okay, how would we present that as a percentage to our readers? We would want to divide the 54,000 number by the 612,000 number. Now you can do this in Google Sheets. You can go in and do a quick division with it. You can do it as a little calculator, on your phone. You have the little calculator there. So put in 54,259 and divide it by 612. 677. You're going to get a percentage. Now, if you get the percentage that reads like this, oops, 0.08856, okay? That's in decimals, okay? Tenths hundredths. So that equals 8.85%. You can use a percentage sign with it. Okay, so this would be the number that you would use. So, just under 9% of all U.S. bridges are in need of repair. That helps the reader better understand this number rather than saying, well, 54,259 bridges need repair. Well, out of how many? Give it to them as a percentage. 8.85% of the 612,677 bridges in the U.S. are in need of repair. Okay? So that's how you do a quick percentage calculation. Okay? So, just gave you the first answer. There you go. Now it's gone. So, just want you to get used to doing quick calculations like that and thinking in terms of writing with number. We're going to talk about writing with data next week when we get into math for journalists. Okay, so that's challenge 1. We're going to do 5 challenges here. Challenge 2, we're going to give you a little taste of scraping data. Okay, we're going to do more of this in the coming weeks. We're going to actually do a bunch of different scraping exercises and show you how to scrape PDFs and all kinds of things. But what we're going to do is we're going to scrape this other database listed right here. It's the Federal Highway Administration's National Bridge Inventory, the NBI, Bridge Inspection Database. Okay, they do it every 2 years. 2021 should be out sometime in mid-2022, probably about the time we're wrapping up the semester. But we're going to use the 2019 one. It's the most current one. It was a more detailed study was actually done in 2017 and then updated in 2019. So we've got, it's much more detailed, much superior to the ARTBA study that MSNBC used. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take this link to this study, and I'm going to open it up so you can see the link, the data. And up here in the upper right, they've got a contact name. You can email this Semi Yoma. You probably ask for the spreadsheet. You could probably do that and wait and wait and wait. But it's got these huge tables full of really useful data here. I can scrape this top table up here. It's got Alabama, all bridges, how many are rated good, fair, or poor. And then they also do it by area in square meters. The size of the bridge matters too. There's a difference between the Mississippi River Bridge that leads into Iowa, the size of that monster, compared to a small bridge that goes over a creek in southwest Illinois. So size of the bridge does matter here. But we're just going to look at the bridge counts in the percentage fair and percentage poor. Okay, as you look down through here, you see some pretty scary numbers. You add good and fair together, and how many bridges in the city are in good to fair condition, or fair to poor condition, fair to poor condition, and you'll see it's a pretty high number. Looks like Alabama, almost half of them are in fair condition. If you add in poor, more than half. I don't know about you, but I don't want to drive across a bridge that's in fair to poor condition. I want to drive across a bridge that's in good condition. And we see these types of disasters. They had one in Minneapolis years ago where people were driving at rush hour. Some were going to a Twins game. People were coming home from work, and the bridge collapsed. I think it was the I-35 bridge. Boom. Just collapsed right down into a ravine, killed dozens of people. I think it was just under 100 people that were killed. It's very scary. So we're going to scrape this data out of here. And scraping involves pulling data out of a cell in a table like this and dropping it into a spreadsheet where we can sort and filter and do something with it. So I've given you the formula here. Import HTML. Most of you have probably done a math calculation in a spreadsheet before. Now you're going to scrape some data. What this formula tells your Google Sheet to do is to import HTML from a web address. You're going to tell it to select a table. And 0, which you rarely change, says start at the top of the page and scrape down. So what I want you to do is under Challenge 2, select this formula that I've just selected here. It's got the Federal Highway Administration's NBI database link in it. You're going to scrape a table from the top of the page. And I've got the steps written out here, so if you're struggling with the video, you can always go through the written steps right below. But we're going to open a Google Sheet. Now you can do that by going to Google Drive and hitting the New button, but I'm going to show you a little shortcut, a little hack here. Go into your browser window, just to open a blank one here, and type in sheets.new and hit return. Bingo, you've got a new spreadsheet. And always want to label your spreadsheet. First thing you should do before you even scrape. Just click in this area up here and label it. That way you can search and find it later. You can search FHA and find it. Even if you put it in some random folder that you can't remember where it's at, you can always go back and get it. Click in cell A1. Anytime you scrape data, you want to scrape into cell A1. Your first row should always be the labels of all the variables. We talked about variables and categories that spill underneath. So the labels should come in the first row, and then the data will flow underneath it. Now I want you to paste that formula that I just showed you into cell A1. And if you were living right, you will have just scraped all of this data out of here. Okay. Before we edit this, okay, if I started to edit this right now, the data would disappear and we'd see an NA error on here. We have to make a copy of this, okay? And you have to follow the directions very carefully on this. So we're going to move the data over to another tab on our spreadsheet. To do that, you want to select the entire spreadsheet. So just click on this little rectangle up here between A and 1, copy it, Control-C on a PC, Command-C on a Mac. To open a new tab on your spreadsheet, hit the plus sign. And before we paste it in, I want you to follow these pasting steps because you have to do it a little differently. Click on Edit, which is right underneath your title. Go to Paste Special and Paste Values Only. What this does is it strips out the scraping code and allows you to sort and filter it without, do editing to it without it collapsing on you. Okay. So now I'm going to move state down here and delete out this top row. And what we're doing right now is cleaning data. So we're going to delete row 1. And to delete a row, you just go to File or Edit and go to Delete. And you can choose if you want to delete row 1, 2, 3, or 4. I just want everything in one row. My header row is all one row instead of 2 rows. Row 2 should have Alabama and all the data in it. You must do this cleaning step or every formula you do will blow up on you. So make sure that you've done this. Your data set should look like this: state, and then good, all good, fair, poor. Okay. Now go back to your exercise. And we've actually completed all these steps. It shows you, paste, special, and all that. And now we're going to do challenge 3, which is we're going to do some percentage calculations in Google Sheets. Okay. In column J, we're going to and you can just cut and paste these if you want. J, K, and L. We're going to add some new headers to it. So column J, we're going to add a column that's titled percent fair poor, without the word type. Percent fair. Column K, percentage of poor. In column L is percentage of fair and poor together, because when you put them together, you're going to get a much higher percentage. Okay, so percentage fair, percentage poor, and percentage fair poor. Now, anytime you're looking at a spreadsheet like this and you're going to take certain columns and certain cells, it's kind of like playing that old game Battleship. I want to take B2 and what is it? Fair. D2 and divide it by B2. You sunk my battleship. That type of thinking. D2 divided by B2. Okay. So I've given you the formulas to do so. Okay, so all you have to do is go back into your handout. And in column J, we're going to do the Alabama row first. Equal sign D2 divided by B2. That's all the formula is. Very simple. You might have done this before. Some of you have spreadsheet experience, but if you haven't, this is first time for you. You just paste it into that cell. Okay. And notice it gives you a little square down here in the lower right. Okay. Take that and drag it down and keep dragging till you get all of the states covered, including totals. And it's going to calculate that for each row. Okay. So now you've got the calculation for Alaska, Arizona, and so on. Okay. But it's done as a percentage, but as decimals. Blah. We don't like that. We can fix that though. Right up here in your toolbar, you can also find it under Format, Number, and you can figure it as a percent. And I'm going to move this over 1 decimal point. To do that, you just click this button up here, decrease decimal places. So now it's 54.346.6. Okay. That shows the percentage of Alabama's bridges, 54% are in fair condition. And just kind of eyeballing it in, 8,700 is, a little more than half of 16,162. We're going to do the same thing for poor. So we're going to do equal sign. I'm going to write this one, equal sign E2, E2 divided by B2. It'll actually highlight the cells. Hit return. This will ask me to autofill. It does the same thing as dragging that down. So if you don't get the check mark, just drag that down again. I'll hit autofill. Click in the K to highlight my entire area. Figure a percentage and move my decimal point. Now I'm going to do percent fair poor. Okay, I can go back to my handout for that one because I'm going to have to add together fair and poor and divide it by B2. Okay, so we'll go back to our handout here, and I've actually written the formula out for you because it's a little different. It's using parentheses, getting a little basic math order of operations. I'm sure you probably remember that from what, 2nd or 3rd grade. D2 plus E2 divided by B2. Very much sounds like a game of Battleship. I know you appreciate this humor when you're doing this exercise at 2 in the morning, aren't you? And again, I'm going to have to pull this one down. It doesn't always give you the autofill. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's a little spotty. And again, I'll change to percentage and move my decimal point over 1 level. And I can always change my font sizes. For some reason, drop this one in a little smaller. So, in Alabama, 58.3% of all of my bridges are in fair to poor condition. That's not good, okay? Now, as we scroll through here, there's a couple of things I want to note. This also includes Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. It also includes totals down here. So it adds everything up for the whole U.S. as well as these other cities, or these other countries, I guess you could say, although they're included in this study. I would delete these out just because we're going to compare states right now, and these aren't states. We'll do the states in the District of Columbia. We'll include D.C. in here. So we can delete these out. And I'm going to leave the totals in, but I'm going to delete out these 2 rows above it. We're going to do a lot with this in the coming weeks. But this blank row here is called what we call a data moat. It's to create separation between totals. It's big with budgets. We want to have the totals down at the bottom of your budget. But it won't mix these numbers up into my list because we're going to look at rankings of the states by these different categories here. So we're going to sort it by percent fair, percent poor, or percent fair poor. And so we've completed now numbers 6, 7, 8, and 9. We're going to actually do some sort range stuff in here, and we're going to situate it largest to smallest. Now keep in mind the example in here still has Puerto Rico and some of these in here. We actually removed it, so you'll get a little truer result. Now to do this, we can click on Alabama and hold down our shift key and click down here in Wyoming in the far right and just select all of our data here. You also can delete out totals and just click up here in the corner and select everything. Don't want to select this because you'll wind up with your totals mixed in. But I just selected everything from A2 down to L52. So I'm only going to sort this data. Okay, sorting and filtering is a skill that you'll develop quite a bit throughout this semester. We're going to do a lot of this on various types of data, crime data, all kinds of stuff. But right now we're going to rank these based on the highest percentage of fair poor to the lowest percentage of fair poor. So we can see which state has the highest percentage and which one has the lowest. And you can kind of look through and eyeball it here, but we can sort it. Imagine if there was 10,000 rows here. You couldn't eyeball it then. But here we only have the 51. To do that, go to Data, Sort Range, and this is new. If you've used Google Sheets in the past, just in the last month or two, they've changed the Sort Range menu. It used to be located down here. It's right here now. And then you want the Advanced Range Sorting options. This is new as well. It's created a little subcategory here. So Data, Sort Range, Advanced Range Sorting options. Data has a header row at the top. Our header is there, so data has a header row. And we're going to sort by, actually I'm going to uncheck that because I believe since I don't have my header selected, we're going to sort by, let's see, column A, we're going to do column L. And we're going to do Z to A, descending order. So the highest percentages are at the top. Okay. And I'm going to hit sort. So uncheck header row. I think since we don't have our header selected, we won't need it. Column L. If I had my header selected, I would be able to read those names. And then I'll hit sort. If I screw it up, we'll go back and do it over again because you learn from those mistakes. Usually I have my header selected. So let's go ahead and hit sort. And it worked. Bingo. And there you go. Good old Rhode Island has the highest percentage of fair to poor bridges. Keep in mind it has fewer bridges, so does DC. You would acknowledge that in the story. Okay. So now that we've sorted this data set, okay, you're going to save this. You're going to download it because you're going to send it to me along with the answers to these questions. So to download this, you go to File, Download, and download it as a Microsoft Excel document, or as long as it's public, you can share it with me. Click Share in the upper right-hand corner and change it to anyone with the link. Copy with the link so I can view your data set. So you can send it to me either way, as an attachment, as an Excel file. Go here, download Excel, and attach it to your email, or you can just share it and then copy the link up here, or copy the link under the share button. That's how you share a Google Doc. But you have to make sure anyone on the internet can view and copy link. Okay. Along with sending me this spreadsheet, you also are going to finish answering all of these questions. You've done challenges 1, 2, and 3. Challenge 4 is asking you which 3 states had the most fair to poor bridges by percentage. If you've done your sort properly, that answer is going to be screaming out at you. And include District of Columbia, count it technically as a state. Okay, which 3 states had the least? Should be an easy answer for you down here. Florida surprises me somewhat here. You can do that. And where does Illinois rank among all those states? Okay, and be mindful that as you're looking at the number down the left-hand side and you see Illinois, immediately you want to say, hey, we're ranked 36th. Well, remember, there's a header row. So what are we actually ranked? Come up with that number. There you go. Instead of 36, row 1's a header row. You don't want to count that. So it would be a different number. So that one should be pretty easy. Then we're going to write with the data. Using the data points that you've come up with, write 3 to 4 paragraphs for a Chicago audience. Little hint here. I would focus my lead of my story on Illinois' rankings and write to the data. Where does Illinois rank among all U.S. states and fair to poor bridges? Attribute it according to what? Okay, Federal Highway Administration's 2019 bridge inspection database. So attribute the data. Then I'd go in and do some analysis on what we call the outliers. What I've given you here in steps 1 and 2 are outliers. Okay, so outliers, which had the most, which had the least. You'll hear this term awful lot with housing prices, things like that. What are the outliers? What's that one house in the neighborhood that's more expensive than all the others? That's typically an outlier. Okay, so write 3 or 4 paragraphs based off the data analysis you find. Is there a big disparity too between percent fair? Which one has the highest in percentage of poor bridges? Where's Illinois rank there? You can do some more analysis with this if you want. So dig deep, have a little fun with it. You can shift gears here for challenge 6. I'm going to have you go in and look at this coronavirus country comparator tool. And what I'm going to ask you to do is kind of look at this, and there's some different criteria over here. You can look at confirmed COVID cases, deceased, people who have been vaccinated once, and those who have been fully vaccinated. Okay, and there's data by country here. Okay, and kind of write it to the U.S. audience. Okay, basically the question I'm asking you is, using the buttons in the upper left, how does the country's population figure into the data? Who might you interview for this story? What are some key observations? How has the U.S. handled the coronavirus outbreak? You probably heard on the news, the U.S. has done a poor job. Well, use data to back that up out of this comparator tool. Okay, and once you've completed all this, send me this in the data set you scraped, either as a link in the email or attach it. You can download this, file download, or send me the link. As long as you've shared this and made it public, so anybody with the link can view it. And send me the answers. So the hard part is getting through the spreadsheet. If you have to take a couple stabs at it, feel free. If you blow it up and mess it up, go back to your original scrape, copy it over, using the edit. Paste special, paste values only, and just do another tab. Sometimes you have to do it 2 or 3 times before you get it right, especially with the sorting. That can be a little messy sometimes. Okay, so that's all I had for you. Just to review the homework a little bit. Your digging for data assignments due Friday, January 28th at noon. Monday, January 31st, this Analyzing Bridge Inspections database assignments due. So make sure you get those done. Beyond getting those done, you've got a little light reading here and reading through the basic math skills tip sheet in the week 4 folder and the Math for Journalists primer in the week 4 folder. We're going to be using that pretty heavily in class next week, so make sure you've read through the basic math skills tip sheet in the week 4 folder, and also the Math for Journalists primer in there as well. So make sure you've read through both of those. That's all I had for now. Good luck with the assignments. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I can always jump on Zoom and help you or send you an email. If you're saying, hey, my spreadsheet's doing weird things, send me the spreadsheet so I can see it. All right, good luck. We'll see you.